Hello. Welcome to the e-NABLE Town Hall meeting for May 20th, 2016. I'm Justine Diamond, your host for this week's meeting. A bit of a misnomer, Town Hall is a weekly meeting held as a Google Hangout on air, and at this meeting we showcase some of the stories from the past week and give a preview to events and things that are coming up. For example, if you're in the Bay Area, this weekend is the Big Bay Area Maker Faire. So if you're in that area, please join John Wong, Melina Brown, and some other volunteers. Maker Faire is always a lot of fun with lots to see. I like to call it your favorite science fair on steroids. And there's always tons of really fascinating stuff and exhibits. John Wong will be leading visitors that come to the e-NABLE table. In hand construction, they'll be working on the version 2 of the Phoenix. He's also got a cool new theme demo hand that will be especially relevant to Bay Area sports fans. So that's all I'm going to say about that for right now. We encourage you to ask questions of any of our speakers. The easiest way to do that is through the Q&A feature that's located inherent to Hangouts. It's the little grid of 9 boxes at the top of the screen. If you're watching on some devices, as in like an iPad, or if you're watching on your phone, you might not be able to access the Q&A, but you can always leave questions on the post for this event, and we will take care of getting you answers to any questions you might have. A reminder that next week we won't be holding a town hall due to the holiday weekend in the United States. So we're going to start with Chris Duckett and his students. Chris and his students, you may recall, joined us in February to talk about their hand project where they broke into groups and each group built a different e-NABLE hand, and his students were able to quite eloquently tell us about the challenges and the joys of building each hand and what they thought were each hand's strengths and weaknesses. And then something really special happened. And rather than me tell you about it, I'm going to pass this over to them because it's always more interesting to hear from students themselves. So hi, Chris, how are you? And how are your students?
We're good. Thank you for inviting us to join you guys today.
So what happened after you were with us in February?
Yeah, so building the hands together in class for a project was one thing, but to actually have a local girl that we were building a custom hand for, I mean, that definitely took it to the next level and made it much more exciting and motivating for all of us because we were making a real prosthetic hand for a real person. So we were all very excited. It took us a while because we went through several iterations and experienced the normal challenges of trying to make one that would work for the girl. But yeah, I'll let my students tell you about what exactly we made and how it went.
So we made a cyborg beast.
Talk loud.
We made a cyborg beast for the recipient.
Colors.
And we made it in purple, pink, and glow-in-the-dark.
Those are the colors the girl wanted. So
very cool.
It was a lot easier because we used to do the elastic and the fishing line because we used crimp tubes.
And these guys were seasoned professionals because they'd already done it on a cyborg beast and all the other hands before, so it was a little bit
cool. What kind of tubes?
Crimp tubes. Instead of having to tie a bunch of knots when you're done with the when you put the line through, you crimp it with the crimp tube.
Crimp tube. Cool.
And what else did we add to the hand to customize it for the girl?
Oh, we put a Seahawks logo on it on the gauntlet.
It's fun customizing. We basically, showed all the hands to the girl when we first met her and said, okay, which design do you want? Which colors? What do you want on it extra? And so she told us, and so it's sort of like filling out an order. It was pretty fun.
That's great.
And she's going to tell you about one of the surprises we made for the girl, too.
So, as a surprise, we got a doll and we made a mini hand for it and we gave it to the girl. And so the backstory behind it is, we got to the store and we didn't have the doll because there's actually a doll named Kendra. So I had one at home. So I just brought a new doll to take home, and then so I brought that newer, older doll, and we used that doll to give it to the girl. And so.
Do you think she liked the doll?
Yeah, she was very excited because it was the first gift she opened, and so
That's right.
she was excited, and I think her brother was too. Yeah, her brother was.
So, speaking of gifts, a few of my students that are very artistically inclined and gifted, they did something special for the gift part of it. Just talk about what you did to present it to the girl.
Well, we put some candy and flowers into the box to make it look more friendly and welcoming. And then we wrapped it in some of her favorite colors.
And we chose her favorite colors.
You put like little sparkly things on it and ribbons.
Yeah, it was extremely painful to see her rip it apart.
They had created a work of art with the gift wrapping, so part of the fun.
I think that's just fantastic.
All right, and this gentleman's, he's a 5th grader, and he's going to tell you guys about one more surprise we had in store for the girl.
So she wanted a hand that she could play piano. So what we did is we got the Python and we got rails for it, and I put 2 Phoenix fingers on it.
In Tinkercad, he added the Phoenix fingers onto the rail system. And how did you separate it? So, like, why did you put 2?
So I put 2 fingers on it so she could play a third.
On the piano, so it sort of looks like that.
That's fantastic. I'd love to see a picture of that.
You can see a picture of it, John. In the notes for this meeting, I've put links to a great blog post that Chris wrote about what his students did. And there's also a video, and the video not only shows this hand that they made for the piano, but you'll get to see Kendra actually play the piano with it.
Yay.
So I think what you guys did was fabulous and inspiring to other people, and just absolutely wonderful. I'm so touched and so moved.
It was really
you guys
great
did a great job. Absolutely amazing.
You know, it's
What's neat about this is that a lot and hung in there long enough to actually get to this point. But it took a long way to get there, and you needed every bit of it. And we're really proud that you hung in, and now you've made a real contribution that others can learn from.
Yeah, it's definitely a humbling experience, and it's not over yet. We've been in contact with the mom. They live about 45 minutes away from us, and she said that they're having a little challenge with grasping with the hands, so we're re-looking at maybe making an osprey for the girl, because we feel like an osprey has the easiest movement since there are no elastics to it, so we're going to see if we can do that the last 2 weeks of school for her. And then the mom has also let us know that the girl has definitely enjoyed the piano hand, so we're really glad we gave that to her. And just want to make sure we stay in contact with them if they ever have anything else they need. So we definitely don't consider it a finished thing, but we want to be available for helping out whenever we can.
We're in it for life.
Well, I'll definitely
no time
make
off
sure
for good behavior.
to send an email between you and Peter Binkley. Peter Binkley is the designer of the Osprey. I know he's just recently done some changes to that, and he's also recently updated his video files to help go through the different steps, because the Osprey is a little more difficult than some of the other hands to build and to assemble, but it's a great design, and I'm sure that he would be more than happy to help you guys, either video conference or text or an email.
Cool. That would be great.
So I will take care of that, and I'm sorry Peter's not here because I know he would be excited, but I know he'll want to help.
All right.
All right. Does anybody who's on the call have any questions or anything to say to any of these students?
Actually, can I just make a huge shout out to you guys and compliment for the work you're doing? Actually, in my little talk about the education piece, I'm going to reference to some of the stuff you guys are doing, but amazing work. Your students, you guys are really breaking some great ground there, so thanks for all the work you're doing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your field trip. You're going to the theater today, is that what you said?
We're actually going to head to a ropes course right now and have a lot of fun.
Well, what fun. Well, you guys have a great time, and I hope that if you build a osprey, that you come back and share that with us too.
All right.
All right, thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, and I'm going to keep this on education for just a moment and pass this on to Rich, who's got some very exciting news about the Google I/O conference. Rich?
Yeah, actually, thanks, Justine. Before I launch into that, I just wanted to connect back to some of the stuff that Chris is doing there. I think there's a perception sometimes among the education side of e-NABLE that it's all about just building the hands and then sending them off. And Chris is a perfect example of the types of teachers that are drawn to this work. Increasingly, we're seeing students and teachers who want like deep, meaningful experiences with their kids through this work, and not just a one-off, we built the hand, sent it off, and now we're on to something else. But the work that they're doing, especially with in terms of like relationships and connecting their kids to real-life problems and looking for multi-year kinds of things and connecting it to other things they're doing, that's certainly where we're looking to throw some attention in the next little bit with the e-NABLE's education piece. Also, I think you got the sense with those kids speaking, when you put kids in the middle of something that means something and is authentic and they feel like the work that they're doing is actually important, you'll see these other incredible opportunities for kids. So even one, just their public speaking there, the opportunity for those students to be able to speak to a group of people who are authorities in an area and have to like negotiate that and be on par with them. It provides them with these opportunities that they wouldn't have if they weren't involved in something that actually meant something to them. And in addition to that, just they're teaching empathy and they're teaching problem solving, and it's so much more than just the construction of the hand. That watch out for Chris, he's going to do some great stuff, and we have other teachers doing very similar work, so that's cool. So I wanted to share with you, speaking of cool things, so I wanted to share with you some things that happened in the life of myself and my son this past week. We had the opportunity to be invited to Google I/O's the Google I/O conference, and we had an incredible time. I thought I would just show you really quickly some of the things that we actually experienced this week, and to sort of let you know the buzz around the education side of what's going on. So can you see my screen there?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, good stuff. So about a year ago, PBS Design Squad Global, which is a kids engineering initiative, caught wind of a school project that we had done with a student of mine last year who built a hand for my son Max, and they put together this awesome little video about it from the perspective of helping kids see what it looks like to do authentic design and engineering, and what it looks like to have kids doing some of this work. So this video has been awesome. It's getting some nice like hits and everything, and that's been great. But one of the groups that actually caught the video that was put together was Google. So they became really excited about the possibility of using this as an example of how to teach kids the importance of design and the design process. So they invited Max and myself and Melissa Carlson, who's a senior digital producer at WGBH. We flew to the Google I/O conference on Monday of this week, and this is Max. So I don't believe there was anybody else at this conference who was under the age of 18. So Max stood out. In addition to wearing his brightest, greenest raptor hand, he stood out because he was a good 3 feet shorter than everybody else. So this is us actually at the kickoff of the I/O conference, and this is their large conference for the year. Tens of thousands of programmers from around the world come to this for just the new rollout of Google's new products and technology and apps and everything. So we were actually there for something to kick this conference off. So we were actually there for the Google I/O Youth Conference. And the I/O Youth was exactly what I was talking about. It was a chance for Google to share some of the work that they're doing in terms of addressing the maker movement and design movement with kids. So they brought us there as just an example of what it's possible for kids to do in this world. So Max and I had the great opportunity to speak to a bunch of students from the Silicon Valley area about e-NABLE and what e-NABLE does and who we are and how Max's life has been impacted by e-NABLE. So Max and I co-presented with WGBH. They did a little presentation of us. Nothing like seeing your son's image projected up on big screens there as an authority on something. So that was pretty amazing. And then we basically worked with students as they cycled through there to teach them not only about e-NABLE but just about the whole design process. And WGBH talked a little bit about their Design Squad global design process. And then I was able to talk to not only e-NABLE and how they've used the exact same process of the iterative design process to develop all the hands that are now present through e-NABLE. So certainly that was one thing that I talked about, but I also talked about the same sorts of things that Chris was talking about. How even when kids build hands, one might think, oh, it's just a straight shot, kids just download the files and you print it and everything's great. But in fact, what a lot of students in schools are finding is there is just tons of problem-solving opportunities in making sure that this hand works for the recipient that they're building. And Chris absolutely nailed it there, that it was understanding the needs of the girl that they were designing for and then trying to do some problem solving around that. And their use of different ways of getting the knots tied, crimp tubing, or I didn't even catch what he said there, but it sounded really cool. So I was actually just talking there a little bit about how kids who build the hands are still using those exact same things that the actual designers in our community use to improve the products. And I shared all the hands that my students have built for Max, from the first RoboHand 3 years ago all the way up to the Raptor Reloadeds that he's got, and just had this awesome opportunity to show the kids that were in attendance at this conference what kids are doing in the world of building and creating to help others in their community. This is just a little shot of Max with, that's Mitch Resnick from the MIT Media Lab. Mitch created Scratch, the computer programming program for kids, and we just had this awesome opportunity to show students what is possible for kids to do. So from 3D printing to app development to website building to the creation of PSAs, kids have never had as much power in terms of affecting change in their world as they have now. And we were there just to provide a little inspiration, and provided we did. And so there was just a shot of Max in Google's headquarters right there. But we just had this great opportunity to just share the work that we're doing, and also hopefully bring some more schools and kids on board with this. And there were many opportunities when we were there when we just thought, how on earth did we end up here at this conference? So I thought it would be fun to share that, just to show our community what's possible in one little story, and we have hundreds of those stories happening now as schools come on board and kids are building for other kids, and yeah, it was a pretty special experience. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
That's pretty cool. Those are great photos too.
Thanks. That's all I got.
Okay.
That is plenty. And actually, that whole thing is online somewhere, right? There's video of all of the Google I/O stuff.
Yeah, that's right. They'll be putting out a big just compilation. So the Google I/O Youth Conference was on the Tuesday, and then the I/O proper started on Wednesday. It's still going on now, and you're right, they're streaming the whole thing. We had some nice coverage from ABC News. Did a nice little interview with Max and Mitch Resnick and myself and all the folks that were presenting there. So I can also put the link to that news report online before something more formal comes out. So
already done, Rich.
Oh, awesome! Yay! Thanks, Justine.
You're welcome. Okay, I know Rich has to go because you've got to take a class over. Is that right?
Yeah, so actually I'm sharing the exact presentation that I shared with you, so I'm sharing it with other students here at the school as just this opportunity. Sometimes you have to remind kids that what we're doing is pretty special, and to try to connect, we have a very small group of kids, 12 kids that are involved in our actual e-NABLE group, but the ability to link it into other things that we're doing throughout the school is huge. And so we're just trying to like stoke the fires in the rest of our kids through this work. And so I both have to do that presentation, but I'm also performing in a lip sync in about 20 minutes, so I have to run through Madonna's Like a Prayer once before I actually go up and do it. So I have important things to take care of. So.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very excited to get more updates on all of this, and so I'm looking forward to being able to share that with people in this venue. So moving on along, I'm going to pass this over to John Schul, who's got some updates on some things that he would like to discuss. You ready, John?
I am ready.
Okie doke.
You know, I got to say, Justine, because I've been traveling, I've missed a number of these town halls. I watched some of them after the fact, but it is always really heartening to see what all is happening and to have this showcase into what's going on. It's a credit to you. It's a credit to all the other people talking about this. Having said that, we have a special town hall meeting on Sunday, which is going to address the original reason for scheduling it, which is that people had questions about our annual report and 990s, but is also going to begin what I hope is a really useful discussion about issues of governance. There have been concerns about moderation of the community. There are concerns about how can and how should the community self-organize. And those latter concerns really go beyond just moderation. I've been reading up on this, and in online community after online community, if they're successful, they grow. And if they grow, you reach a point where it's not like a small family where everyone knows how to deal with everyone. You need to start building in some mechanisms for conflict resolution, for discussion, for decision making, and that's called governance. And while I started the community, I have been not trying to be a governor in any sense. The foundation, for a while, took that on just because it seemed like something we could do. But the foundation is not particularly interested in ruling over the community. And in fact, the successful community needs to develop its own governance. Now, I happen to hold those keys because I created the Google Plus community. And so I'd like to begin a discussion of how we can make that transition. I also think, frankly, that that leadership within the community has been retarded is the word I'm looking for, in part because people assumed that the foundation was going to take care of all of these things that leaders in the community should do. Well, the foundation has succeeded in getting significant funding to do particular things, and A, running the community was not one of them, and B, the foundation running the community would probably be a bad idea. So as the community begins to need more governance, it's a great moment for us to say, let's figure out how to do it together. So Sunday's town hall meeting is going to be important. We're going to deal with the very concrete issues of the annual report in the 990. We're going to begin talking about community moderation and how that should become actually a process of the community, by the community, and for the community. And I'm hoping we will begin moving towards community governance. That'll be a big Q&A. There is a post for the special town hall meeting. I'm going to show you my screen just so you can see it. And I want to urge you to RSVP and to
And
tell
John,
other
there are
people.
links to the event itself and to the place where people can ask questions in the notes for this meeting, which I'll make publicly available as soon as I can, which should be within a half hour of the meeting ending.
Terrific. So you can see here, you can follow the link, you can actually RSVP, and frankly, if you know other people who care about the community but who ought to be there, make sure they know about it. The only other thing I'm going to say about that is that, you know, governance is not just a matter of who makes the rules and who enforces the rules and who abides by them. The real point of governance and of the community is that it protects, defends, and advances shared values. And the community actually hasn't articulated its own shared values. And being presumptuous about this particular thing, Marla and I have written a little essay called What We Believe. That's what I believe and what Marla believed. And we welcome your input. I suspect that the community is going to have to converge on some kind of a common set of written values, because we're too large now just to count on mutual understanding and the ability to argue with each other the way one argues with one's families. So we put this forward as at least what we think may be what we, and maybe even others, are interested in. I'm going to put a link to it in a post, and I'm going to make it available for comments by the entire community. And I'm going to suggest that people discuss it in general in the post so that it stays present in front of the community, and that people make comments on particular phrases or propose things that they'd like to put inside by adding comments internal to the document so that you can have threads on particular topics. And I would just be really interested in what people think about that. Again, I put it forward not because it's the right answer for anyone, including, by the time you're done giving us input, including Marla and me, but because we're here doing, according to this particular essay of ours, really deep and important stuff. And what has bound us together are implicit shared values. We're going to need to make them a little bit more explicit and figure out how to advance them and protect them better. The meeting on Sunday, which really opens this discussion, is from 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time until 2 o'clock. That doesn't mean it's going to go for 3 hours, but it will start at 11, and I really hope we'll get enough people there to begin doing really important work of a mature community that has actually managed to change the world before it pulled itself up by its own bootstraps. I know that Andreas and Marla are here. They've been working on some of these issues with us. Anything else you want to say about what we're undertaking?
Yeah, no, I think you did a great job. A great job covering it, John. I would also just mention, I think it's, you know, as the community has grown, there have been a couple of attempts to, you know, to try to find this like common set of core beliefs. I remember back when we tried it when the community was about 200 people.
Okay.
So, and it was difficult even then. So, like, there's like, again, I like to tell people, like, there's a reason this stuff hasn't happened before. It's really hard. So, I just say, like, everybody, you know, please come with, you know, patience and you know, a good attitude, and I just look forward to working this out and figuring this all out with everybody. I think there's something really special going on, and I think we're gonna find some very good common core values.
And Marla is still on mute. So maybe she's not.
She may not have anything to add at this
May
point.
not have anything to add.
Okay. If you don't have anything to add, John, I'll move on, and then we can always come back because Andreas will be talking about some of this as well. So.
Right. I guess the only thing I want to say in response to Andreas is this is really hard. It's notoriously hard. It always happens. And by the way, the fact that it's hard and the fact that it's painful is actually not a bad thing. That's why it's important, though. So please help us. Okay, enough of that.
Okay, so moving on to a different area. A couple of weeks ago, you may remember, we talked about a design conference that was being held at Carnegie Mellon and University of Pittsburgh, and that was primarily put together by Dr. Jen Mankoff, who's here with us today. I listened in to part of that conference and watched a couple of the presentations. I have put links to all of the information from the conference into the notes for this meeting, which, again, I will make available once we're done. But I wanted to have Dr. Mankoff come in and talk about what happened and what she's doing. And I will add that when I was out in Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago, I took a tour of her lab, and there's some really fabulous, amazing things going on down there. I was so impressed. So anyway, without further of that, I'm going to pass this over to Jen.
Hi, thanks for the wonderful introduction. I wasn't sure exactly what would be most useful to say about all of this, except that, you know, I'm really excited about what e-NABLE is doing and glad to be part of it, and trying to do what I can to bring a perspective to e-NABLE's work that comes from, you know, and I say this with an understanding of all of its limitations in ivory tower a little bit, but also a technical research perspective. And our collaborators at Pitt are a combination of rehab technologists and prosthetists and others from that side of the world. And so we approached e-NABLE about this summit, and we're really excited to be able to have some representation from e-NABLE there, because we really wanted to explore this issue of what happens when and what kinds of tools and what kinds of knowledge can support the creation of assistive technologies in by end users, which is what e-NABLE is about, but also to then begin to explore what are some of the problems that might need to be looked at and that we could bring research perspectives to help solve with respect to device quality, the experience of device recipients, the experience of makers, the tools available to makers in order to do all of this. What can we do to facilitate what e-NABLE is already doing and make it even better? So we were trying to start a conversation with all of these different kinds of people, and we were really pleased to have a really wide variety of people represented at the summit. And we spent a lot of the time at the summit on breakout groups discussing these kinds of issues, primarily two areas, one looking more at people and the experience that they have and how to improve that, both on the making side and recipient side, and also even in terms of the clinical side a little bit, and then the other thinking about tools and how to improve quality and the customizability of things on the tools end. We also had a number of people give talks, and I'm just trying to pull up the Google Drive now to make sure that, yeah. So if you look in the drive that we have, you'll see some photos from the summit, some relevant documents that we created, the agenda, and then a directory called Talks. And in the Talks directory are slides of the 5 people who spoke. So they were John Scholl giving an overview of e-NABLE, Jeff Bigham talking about some of the really cool crowdsourcing kind of things that he does to make really amazing things happen, like on-the-fly transcription of audio for the deaf at speeds and qualities better than any existing automated or in-person solution. We also had Andrea Hess talking about her clinical perspective on all of this, Scott Hudson talking about some of the research that he and I do and others on making, and Ben Salatin talking about some of the kinds of things that go on and that he's trying to create in the VA in terms of bringing in this DIY perspective and in terms of what rehab technology is. So it was a really interesting group of speakers. I guess aside from that, I will say that the talks were recorded, and I think the relevant documents folder has links to that. They were recorded inside of an Adobe tool. I'm looking for the link. Oh, you know what? I think I posted the links for the recordings separately in the e-NABLE group. Justine, if you need help tracking those down, I can send them to you to put in the agenda.
I'll double check. I think I have them, but I'll double check.
Okay. So I think that pretty much, oh yes, they're here already. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. I think that pretty much summarizes what we did. We ended by trying to come up with some action items that we as researchers could tackle in order to try to begin looking deeper into some of those problems. But another thing that's come out of all of this is that I am hoping to hold a discussion, and I think we posted a doodle poll about this, my student Megan did, with e-NABLE community members about what will be a good way, or what could be a way to go forward in terms of follow-up and expectations of recipients about follow-up, as well as expectations of people who are providing hands, in order to allow us to do a better job of tracking. Because I think we all, I hope we all understand and would like to know what happens, the value of what happens to these hands after they're handed out is so important for the community in order to help guide it. It's huge for the foundation because, of course, funders and others want to know what's going on. It's really important from a research perspective. It helps us in our conversation with clinicians and others who care about safety. Not that e-NABLE doesn't, but I just think that there's almost no stakeholder in this who doesn't benefit from knowing more about what happens with the hands, and the recipients themselves benefit if through follow-up we're able to identify when something goes wrong. So we've posted a doodle poll to the community, and we're really hoping people will put their names in if they're interested, and that one of the things that will come out of this will be a community-driven effort to modify the procedures so that there can be more follow-up. I think that's everything I have to say.
Okay. Does anybody have anything for Jen? John or Andreas?
I want to say huge thumbs up. I mean, I think the follow-up question is something that, that's having spent now a lot of time talking with prosthetists, that's like one of the things where our methods kind of differ the most from kind of traditional methods is there isn't a protocol for checking back in to see did this device adequately address your needs, or was there a conversation about what needs were most important to be addressed. So super excited to kind of transfer some of that really valuable stuff out of the existing practices into our work. So that's hugely exciting.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on, I'm going to go over to Andreas, who in the community this week posts some information about a new tool called Limbforge, and I'm sure you've all saw that. There's links in the minutes, as I've said, and I'm going to pass this over to Andreas, who's going to talk about that, and I think some other things.
All right.
It's all yours, Andreas.
Great, thanks so much. So I'll preface this with saying I could probably spend about 2 hours talking about Limbforge because it's really it's something that there's been a lot of work has gone into it, particularly into the architecture. That's something that myself and some others have been working on for over a year now. So there's a lot of nuance, and there's a lot of this new degree of control that we have over the geometry. I'll explain a little bit more about how big the opportunity space that it opens up is, but it's pretty huge. So I think first I'll just explain a little bit about the kind of most important things that Limbforge can do. So Limbforge is a new browser-based device configuration tool, and it's something that a good friend and colleague of mine here, Phil Seaton, who's actually the web team lead at Instructable, so has a lot of experience, building things browser-based, working with online communities. So put a little bug in his ear last fall about these challenges about device sizing and configuration, and so we started working together in December, starting to kind of kick around some ideas, and he's basically written a really powerful kind of proof of concept in JavaScript. I'll link to the GitHub if folks would like to take a closer look at that. And I've also been working with a really fantastic couple, Matt and Kate Hova, who some of you in the 3D printing world might have seen their 3D printed violin, which has been tearing it up. Really great acoustic violin. So that group of people has been really helping put this tool together. What's really important about Limbforge is it allows for a departure from scaling as the strategy for sizing, and actually moving to support a more nuanced strategy for sizing, and really starting to have that conversation about just eliminating the term scaling entirely and talking truly about sizing. Because if you took a infant's hand and scaled it up to an adult's hands, it's clear that it's not just a linear proportional scale. So, and that holds true for a lot of our anatomies. So, the kind of most important things now that we have this kind of more nuanced layer of control here is we can keep we have a lot of control over interfaces. So we can keep hole sizes constant for all of the sizes of the designs. And so what that means is specifically for something like the thermomesh palms that go onto the bottoms of the designs here, we can actually keep those screw sizes the exact same size for every single size of device. So that means that we can use, in this case I've chosen M3 or number 6 screws, which are very, very close in size, so both imperial and metric. We can use the same screw across all of the different sizes of design, which dramatically simplifies hardware sourcing, kits, and a lot of uncertainty and potential for kind of assembly error. So that's pretty exciting. The other really exciting thing, which I'll demonstrate with my kind of hand cucarachas here. So we've got a device here assembled from parts generated with Limbforge, and then a traditional device made with just linear scaling. So the Limbforge device, this is at 150% scale. So the Limbforge device, when we shake it, versus the linearly scaled device, so you can see there's a really big difference in those. You can really hear the difference in the control over the mechanical clearances, which are now absolute. So the mechanical clearances, the gaps basically between the fingers and the joints and the palm, as well as in the actual finger joints, proximal to distal, that's the same distance as it is in the 100% scale hand. So no rattling there, whereas with the traditionally sized hands, we get a lot of. And that can also be pretty easily seen if you just try to wiggle a finger. So on the Limbforge, just get a little bit of deviation. You can't bring 2 fingers together to touch. Whereas on a traditionally sized device, you get a lot of wiggle, and so you can really kind of squeeze the fingers together. So pretty exciting, because that dramatically improves the consistency of device performance over size. So very excited about that. Additionally, we can keep some interfaces constant. So one of the exciting things is the tensioners. So on a 100% size and a 150% size device here, you can actually use the same tensioner with the same screws, the same pins. So we've, again, reduced part count and the kind of opportunity for assembly error, and also particularly looking at that interface between screw threads and the printed plastic. So I just implemented this as the kind of the proof of concept using the reverse dovetail thermoform gauntlet and 3-pin tensioner, just because it's kind of one of the simplest tensioners. It's based on work that the Team Unlimited guys did. But ultimately, Limbforge will be able to support also the more the Whippletree gripper box that I believe, I'm trying to remember who developed. I think that was largely Jason Bryant, but I'd have to check the forums. But what's kind of shipping standard with the Phoenix now? So there's a huge opportunity for control. Additionally, final thing, all of the supports, there are dynamic auto-generated supports that are used in the wrapper reloaded now. So that offset distance between the support structure and the palm stays constant. Additionally, I've made some modifications to the palm to make it pretty much much cleaner. One of the really interesting things is that in removing all of that slop from the joints, that's okay. So it looks like the John Diamonds is the other kind of more sophisticated Whippletree gripper box. So I'll be parameterizing and adding that as well. One of the really interesting things is that as I took out all that slop, it really aggravated a lot of kind of underlying problems in the mechanics of the design. So I'll be sharing later some of the workaround solutions and improvements just to the fundamental mechanics of particularly the proximal phalanges. We can go into that a little bit later. I'll just give you guys a quick, also just visual tour of Limbforge. Go ahead and bring up the screen. You guys can see the browser?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, let me toggle over. So, so I'm just running this off of my kind of local fork of the repository because I'm in the process of adding some new designs. So currently we have discrete sizes between currently just using the kind of current lexicon or the traditional lexicon of percent scale. I'm looking forward to moving to likely a letter-based scale system. So it's just a matter of size A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We're moving in. If you kind of run the numbers, we're moving in about I believe it's 2.75 millimeter increments in terms of like the difference in width on the inside of the palm. So shoes move something in like probably a 5-ish millimeter increment, maybe a little bit more. So I think this discretization makes a lot of sense for just simplifying the process. So we currently, again, in just this very early proof of concept tool, I have some folks working on kind of just better UI UX because you can see there's no information about what this device is appropriate for, what the sizing protocol is. There's a lot of additional information that needs to be presented by the tool. So again, we're still in a very early stage here. We just wanted to share out some of this work. But we've got a slider here for changing the size. You can select right, left hand. We have a drop-down menu here where you can select the different hands. So you can, again, right, left, pick a variety of sizes. You get the most control over the geometry when you're working with a fully parametric model, because that makes it possible to do things like change the size of the the holes in the palm so that they stay constant across all different sizes of the geometry. But it's worth noting that we can get most of the power of kind of Limbforge or parametric configuration just by parameterizing the gauntlet and the proximal phalanges here. That lets us kind of take the slop out of, what would that be? That would be 12 interfaces, which is going to account for the majority of the rattling that we see. So this opens up a kind of huge number of opportunities. It takes about, if we look at the the Raptor Reloaded, the number of parameters involved, just dimensions, and every little number basically that goes into this. There are probably about 1,000 individual numbers that go into defining a piece of geometry like this. So we now have, instead of control over one, the linear scale, we have control over all 1,000 of them. So that's a bit of an overwhelming kind of opportunity space there. Mm-hmm. But if we take a look, feel free to visit the Limbforge GitHub, which has a lot of, we're building out the documentation as we kind of move along here. So it has explanations about how the parametric sizing works, strengths of the approach, limitations of the approach, and just more information about the tool, including how to, the process for adding new designs to the tool. And that was one of the kind of highest priority items, is to make that process as easy as possible. So there's a lot of documentation about that. Additionally, if you want to kind of take a look at what, some ideas about what future things we can do with Limbforge are, feel free to take a look at the issues page, where we just started to scratch the surface with some of what's possible. So there's again, just a huge amount that is now possible. You know, one of the things I'm looking forward to is, you know, we've got a lot of chunky hand syndrome, and have for the past you know, 2 years, mainly due to these wall thicknesses, you know, scaling linearly with the device size. So I'm going to be working on redesigning some of these palms, incorporating some of the kind of better mechanics that I've been working on, and really trying to get these get the sizing to be a bit more sophisticated, just so the overall aesthetics and function are consistent over all the sizes. So there's a huge amount of work left to be done, but we're pretty excited to start doing some beta testing very soon. Once we get a little bit more information baked into the UI UX about proper sizing protocols, you know, appropriateness of different designs for different limb differences. There's a lot left to do, but the kind of minimum viable functional capability is there. So it downloads properly sized geometry with a document that can link to instructions, or we can pull a full graphic PDF in with assembly instructions, you know, a license for that set of files. Each file name is configured so that it has the name of the actual parts, the quantity required, and the design that it applies to. So there's a huge amount. And I also recently developed a workflow for actually individually serializing or debossing version data in a parametric fashion into the devices, so we can start to actually have palms that say, you know, size A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you know, version 3.2, etc. So the ability to kind of build infrastructure on this architecture is pretty exciting. So I'll be continuing to share updates just as we kind of make progress on, again, this kind of overwhelming number of kind of features that we can build with this new architecture. So with that, any questions? Again, I could talk about this for hours, so would love to see if there are any questions. Otherwise, I'll keep posting updates into the community.
Let me check and see if we have any questions about this.
You know, one thing that Andreas told me when I saw him a few weeks ago is that under the hood, what Limbforge does is it pre-stores a gazillion variants of each design, so it doesn't have to render them in real time when you use it. And as I understand it, that both makes it very fast when you've chosen a setting, and it also makes it quite promiscuous with regard to what kinds of designs it will welcome. So those are big advances.
Yeah, no, it's you know, having spent a long time in e-NABLE, and you know, having you know, I've been kind of pounding the parametric design drum for, you know, 2.5 years, and it's not a matter of, you know, I've learned that, you know, it's not a matter of getting everybody to use the same tool. I mean, we would overcome some huge inefficiencies in, you know, collaboration on hardware if we all could work in the same environment. But you know, some things just, you know, just aren't practical. It's not possible. So you know, a year ago I moved to this different strategy of, well, if we have to work with STLs, let's work with them. Let's do it in an architecture that makes sense, that is accessible, and that to a certain degree, I mean, this opens up in terms of, I use this term a lot, of device architecture. This really opens up, we can really leverage off-the-shelf hardware now. If we can keep you know, spatial interfaces constant, we can now interface with stuff, you know, stuff from the real world, stuff from the hardware store, and not rely as much on you know, the properties or resolution of 3D printed parts. This opens up a lot of doors. So, and it's going to take a little while to, you know, kind of walk, you know, stumble around this dark room and find all those doors, but it opens up a lot. It opens up a lot.
If I may channel the inner Andreas, Tinkercad and Blender users, unite with us. You don't even have to lose your chains, right?
Chains?
Workers of the world unite.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
Your chains. In this case, you can bring them with you if you insist.
You bring them, yeah. Again, I will say that it's going to be, you know, creating these, the back end is creating these lookup tables, basically pre-compiling every single file necessary to implement a device, which takes. So basically taking that load, which we have been distributing to the entire fabrication community and everybody who implements a device, and putting that load up front, and basically having either a computer or a designer invest time in that heavy lift just once to save everybody else that lift. That's going to be easier with a scripting process, which a lot of parametric CAD tools lend themselves to. But I'm pretty sure there's got to be a way to do.
There are scripting processes in both Tinkercad and Blender, so it could become really quite a diverse watershed.
Yeah. So. And while I am a little bit nervous as this opens up a lot of doors, and as designs get more and more complex and start to iterate more and more, or develop more and more, evolve more and more, the importance of consistent mechanical interfaces as the kind of highest level definition of a device is going to become more important, so that we can modularly update aspects of the device without causing conflicts. So. We're starting to get almost closer to perhaps an object-oriented CADing approach. We'll see, but it's it opens up some very interesting opportunities. Anyway,
Yep.
I'll leave it at that. So any questions? Otherwise, I'm happy to just share more about this in the community via posts.
One thing I'll say, it's a bit of a minor point of what's going on with what you're doing, but to be able to standardize some of the hardware will make some of the larger build events that we do a lot easier. When we did the Autodesk build event in December, even though all the hands were the same size, we had a range of sizes rather, and so we needed a huge range of screws for a bunch of things. And to be able to do this is going to make, for someone who wants to put together a build event, it's so much easier. So I see the potential on the larger, on the bigger picture of what you're doing, but in the very small picture of trying to arrange a build event, this is huge.
Yeah, no, the plan is to basically. The other really big buttons and information that's missing from the tool right now is links to hardware sources, links to pre-assembled kits of all that supplemental hardware, links to all the assembly instructions. Basically, want to make this the one-stop shop where you get absolutely everything. Because again, having watched this stuff happen for a long time now, there's, I would say, hazard guess, maybe 5% of all community traffic is what size screw do I use, or where did you get that Velcro? If whenever we have people asking the same questions over and over again, and other people replying with the same answers over and over again, that's something we should throw a computer at, or that's an architectural systems level thing that needs fixing. And once we free up all that human capital to do something else, we can move a lot of things forward. So I'm really excited about it.
It's great work.
Yeah, really excited to see this. I think it's a really neat tool, and I'm hoping we'll be able to contribute to it once we can figure out the best options from the CMU end.
Totally.
Yeah, it's really pretty awesome. We do have a couple of comments. Most of the comments that have come in have been for Chris Duckett, and congratulations to the wonderful work his students are doing. But we do have some comments with this, that this is a great advance and that it's very exciting. Which it really is. The fact that you could have a one-stop shop that could get you all that information, including the assembly instructions and all of that stuff, is just going to make it so much easier and so much more accessible for people. Some people, I think, get caught up in some of those details, and it's a turn-off for them, and this will just make the whole process so easy. So this is fantastic. Congratulations. I think it's wonderful.
Very excited, yeah.
Okay, we're just at the end of the hour. If we don't have any other questions, I am going to remind everyone that we will not be here next week. Notes from this meeting with all sorts of links to everything you've heard about today will be available shortly. And until next time then, happy printing, have a great weekend, and bye-bye.